you kind of stepped away from the arts. Do you think that if you would have continued it, do you think that you would have the energy and the passion you have for it now, or do you think you would have been like kind of burnt out, but you're glad that you rediscovered it when you did?
I think the break definitely helped. It definitely allowed me to get more life experience that I could bring to any character that I do. I think I said it was about a 15-year break. You know, that's going to grad school, getting a full-time job, getting married, having kids, things that if I would have continued, they would have still been there, but it wouldn't have been the same.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Shoe of Hope channel. This is the Hope Speaks podcast, and in here, the live studio, we have Crystal Comuntzis. Crystal, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So a lot of people might know you from the channel from Tortuous.
Yes.
Which is the short film that you were in, and it's also been a 1-year anniversary, by the way. So we're going to get some reaction about that, and you can give me your true feelings about the film a year later and what you think about it. But I do want to start with the question, because for people that don't know you, you're a teacher.
Yep.
You are also in BT Improv, and you're also part of the Black Box Theater community as well.
Yes.
So what really got you, we won't necessarily go the teacher route, although I feel like the teacher route plays a lot into the artistic and the expression part about it, but what got you into the arts as far as was there an event in your past that was like, hey, I want to go try to perform, I want to be somebody else, a dramatic play, or was it just a person that influenced you in your life?
So I've always loved performing. When I was a kid, I used to do a lot of singing, a lot of just pretend play, dancing, although that was definitely not the forte. But once I got to high school and plays were available, I tried out for all the plays in high school and loved it. Loved being on the stage, loved performing. I was always in choir or chorus and did that, so had concerts and stuff. Loved it. Once I got to college and I could perform again for more people, I jumped on the opportunity for that. Took some of the acting classes and just fell in love with being in the theater. Once I graduated, life got in the way, so had a 15-year break from acting or doing any type of performing until BTE Improv. I went to my first show, loved it, and then they had an announcement that they were doing auditions for new members, and I was a little hesitant because it'd been a long time, but one of my friends convinced me to try out, and I did, and I got it, and I've been back ever since. So it has been lovely to just be able to get back out and perform for people.
And was that the first time that you've actually attempted improv?
So I did improv a little in college. We had like a club that we would do lots of types of performing, and improv was one of them that we did. And improv, I love it. It still, to this day, makes me a little nervous because, improv is off the top of your head. And, all my acting prior to that was always with a script. So that was one of the hesitations of trying out was, okay, it's been a long time since I've done improv, but it just, came back to me. It's like riding a bike. It you don't forget. You just got to get back into that routine. So,
well, it's also like a professional athlete. The more you do it, because I always think about like when I used to be a baseball player back in high school, and I was like, I can only imagine, because we went to a district championship game, and you're playing in front of a AAA stadium crowd, and I'm just like, I can only imagine the anxiety you probably have if you're in the big leagues. Like, you're stepping up in front of thousands upon thousands of people. Does it ever get easier? Like, I know you say that you're still you get a little bit nervous sometimes, like when you have improv nights, but like, does it get easier the more shows you do?
I think so. You get more of an idea of some of the things that work. You get a little more familiar with the way that the games that we play are played. Get more practice with those under your belt, and then it does get a little bit easier. I still get nervous before every single show, but people keep coming back. We have regulars, so we're doing something right. So that helps.
Do you know exactly what might happen or what categories for improv pop up ahead of time? Or is everything like brand new the moment you walk in there?
So we kind of get a heads up as to what games we are going to play that night, but we don't know whether we are going to be the ones playing it. So our head improver, Abby, she's the one who picks the games out, and she delegates who's going to be in them. So our prior practices, typically just the one before, and we practice on Wednesdays, she'll say, okay, these are some of the games that we're going to play. She didn't have the list this time, so we only she remembered a couple to tell us, but normally she'll say, okay, here are the games that we're playing, so we can just familiarize ourselves with how they're played. But that night, when they're being called up, she'll say, all right, this game is for Crystal and Renee. And so then that's part of the surprise, like, okay, I'm the one playing this. So heads up on what's being played, no heads up on whether you're the one playing it.
Is there a specific person on stage? So you're going to pick any of your cast members on stage. Is there somebody that makes you step up your performance a little bit more? Is there somebody that you're like, oh, I got to either try to like match their level, or like, is there somebody that just like shines when you're on stage with that you're just amazed by?
They all make me laugh at some point. There's a couple when they are together, they make me laugh a lot. So that would be Violet and Joe. When those two play together, I'm definitely like, they shine as when they're paired up. One of our players, who is no longer able to play with us right now, Kyle, he usually has me like in tears in my seat because I'm laughing so hard. I think each of them, and like when I'm playing with each of them, I try to always match the energy of who's with me. Abby, our head improver, I think she's one that when I'm playing with her, like since she's our head girl, I try to match her level a lot because she's done this for a while, so she has a lot of knowledge to impart, so I always just follow along with her lead.
Is there a certain trick or tip that you kind of keep in your head to stay in character? Like, because I'm sure there's moments you're like, don't break character, don't break character.
Yeah, and I've definitely laughed in the middle of some of the games, especially one called One-Liners, where we pull out one line, like lines from our pockets with things that the audience has given us. So I don't know what I'm going to pull out of my pocket, and that has led to some really funny things that I wouldn't normally say in my everyday life. So I've had some that were very, very hard for me to get through without laughing. But some tips and tricks in my head, I'm just like, normally just the mantra, stay in character. Don't laugh. Think of something that's not funny right now.
Is there a moment that stands out, like if I just say, like, name your best moment at improv? Is there something that just sticks out, like a memory that you have?
Oh, my best moment.
It could be your best moment that you're like, oh, I really delivered this, like the character, or it could be just watching somebody else. Like, is there a moment that you recall to that just makes you laugh? Like, is there something back in the memory bank that's just like, this still gets me today?
There was one with Joe and Violet that was the One-Liners game, and they were at a flower shop, and there were some really funny lines that came from it, and they just both delivered those lines, which would I would definitely break character with. They just delivered them flawlessly, and it worked so well. I literally was crying in my seat. My other improvers who were not a part of the game were like, "Are you okay? Like, are you okay?" And I'm like, "I can't stop laughing," like trying to silently laugh while they're going, and it was a good scene.
Part of your life, like it shows on social media and it shows at the YMCA that you're very family oriented. You're very like specifically kid driven because obviously being a teacher. What does it mean to you to have your kids in the audience for your shows sometimes?
So typically BTE improv shows are 18 and up. So I never thought that they would actually get a chance to come see the show, but we had a show at Freeze Farm Winery that was family friendly, and I didn't know until I got there that it was. And just my husband was going to show up, and when I found that out, I called him and said, "Bring the kids, like families can come to this one." So they were able to come see that, and that was great because I tried to explain it to them in very G-rated terms, how we play and the stuff that we do, and they're like, "Oh, can we come?" And at that point, they couldn't. So for them to be able to be there, that was great. I love showing them that just because, I'm their mom and I, do all these things with them, that I also have things that I enjoy doing that bring me happiness, that so they can see that, your parents do have other things that they do as well, and they love it. And I've been able to share, mainly with my daughter, because she also loves performing, been able to share that love of theater with her, because she has done two shows with me at the Berwick Black Box Theater. She was a tiny dancer in those, and she seems to enjoy it. She does dance now, but just being able to share that. And while my son he can perform things too, he just does not want to do it in front of other people. Being able to, encourage him to do music, live your passion. It's nice to be able to show them that.
I guess I should have thought before I asked the question that it was 18 and older, and I did not think that about that. But I'm glad that you went into the Freeze Farm Winery story, because I was like, I knew that you had played there, but I was like, I wasn't thinking. With seeing friends and family in the audience, and specifically your husband too, like, what does that mean? Like, do you kind of block out everybody else? And it's almost like it doesn't matter what the audience thinks. Like, you're performing for them that came to see you, and like the support that you get. Because in this community, in Berwick, PA, there are a lot of arts that go on. But there's not a whole lot either. Like, there's a lot, but there's not a lot compared to, like, say, if you lived in a city, like in Philly or Pittsburgh, or even like a Scranton or Wilkes-Barre. So what does it mean that you have friends and family that love coming to your shows, that support you, and are in the audience watching?
It definitely means a lot. Having an audience full of people in general is just great. Like, hey, thank you for paying money to come see us perform. We appreciate you spending your hard-earned money like on something that we are putting on. But it's especially awesome to look out in that audience and see people who are there specifically for you, that they are there supporting you and encouraging you to do what you're passionate about, something that, a lot of people don't always get to do the things that they love. So having people who are there to support you, especially my husband, with rehearsals and practices, especially for plays, not so much for improv, because we have a once a week rehearsal that sometimes not everybody can make it. But having to put a lot of time and effort into other things, like rehearsals for plays that are a lot more time consuming, and having him support me in that is just, it's wonderful. And he's wonderful for taking up the responsibilities that I often don't get to do because of those, especially in improv when, we are introduced by Abby at the beginning of the show, and just hearing that extra applause and knowing when it's my name and somebody, the audience is full of people that are there for me. It's just, thank you. Like, just helps that passion to just be embraced more, knowing that there are people who are out there to see me do it.
Now, you had talked about previously on the podcast here that you kind of stepped away from the arts, and now that you came back, do you think there's a little bit of like a rekindling, like a flame that kind of like took you to a place where, you probably didn't imagine it being. Once you're probably like, oh, it flamed out, so I'm not going to continue this anymore. And like, you're probably very, very thankful that you got the opportunity to restart all this.
Yes.
Do you think that if you would have continued it, do you think that you would have the energy and the passion you have for it now, or do you think you would have been like kind of burnt out, but you're glad that you rediscovered it when you did?
I think the break definitely helped. It definitely allowed me to get more life experience that I could bring to any character that I do. I think I said it was about a 15-year break. You know, that's going to grad school, getting a full-time job, getting married, having kids, things that if I would have continued, they would have still been there, but it wouldn't have been the same. You know, I think there would have been some burnout happening where, you know, there probably would have been a break happening anyway, but I think that having that long gap in there added to the passion to continue, to get back into it, to want to be there again.
And we had talked about the Berwick Black Box Theater. So you went from Bloomsburg Theater Ensemble, and then you went to Black Box as well, correct? Like that was the order, like because I don't remember when Black Box was created. It's probably about 2 years old, 3 years old now?
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. And great job by the Berwick community by being able to fund and actually put a lot of resources into that as well and get that up and going.
Yes,
there are a lot of people behind the scenes that wanted to get that up and running a lot sooner, that they were able to finally get funds and a place to do it. So, but it's also a traveling theater because you guys also go on the road, right? Like I think you've also been around the town of Bloomsburg, I think at the town park for certain shows as well. Maybe not you specifically, but I know that they do that. So it's also kind of like a traveling, which is really nice that they do that. Was the first show that you were in the Headless Horseman, the Legend of Sleepy Hollow?
No. So the first one we did Shakespeare. It was short scenes from a bunch of different Shakespeare plays. And I ended up being in, I believe it was 2 scenes, Much Ado About Nothing and Macbeth. So since they were all short scenes from it, it was a lesser commitment, which was nice to get back. Like that was my first script show in all those years. So getting my toes in that water, it was great. And that was the first show that Amelia was able to be a tiny dancer at. That was nice to share that experience with her. But it was a great feeling to be there. And we performed in front of the Jackson Mansion for that. One of our shows unfortunately got canceled because it was pouring rain. So I think we only did 1 show, but it was great. We had a good turnout, introduced people to community theater because it was nice to finally have something like that in the area. And
I had to talk about line memorization there because, you know, it's different than improv. You have a script. And I can't talk about it in the next segment, Tortuous, because there's really not lines really spoken that much in that film. So it's more so your facial acting because, you know,
the car scene.
The director just doesn't like to do lines, and that's in every film for some reason. He's just not a big dialogue person. So when you're memorizing lines, because I'm convinced the voiceovers we did prior to this podcast, I'm convinced you probably could have just memorized them off the top of your head and you would have flowed with it. That's amazing to me because I write and I don't even remember my own lines half the time. So how do you try to process and memorize your lines and stick with it? Because I know some actors, they do like certain words and they're like, oh, I need to get to certain words. So that helps them in the order in which they go. And they don't have to memorize the whole thing per se, but they go word by word and know the points that they need to hit.
Yeah.
How do you memorize?
So I just repeat the phrase over and over in my head a couple times. I'll say it out loud a couple more times. If I don't have my husband to read if it's in a partner scene, if I don't have him there to be that other person, I will try recording it and then look back and say, okay, I definitely I got this. I need to come back to that line. Just a lot of just practice and a lot of just reading it over and over again, trying to see if I know this part. If it's with somebody else, trying to make sure I give them at least the last line, because we often use, this person says cat, and that's my cue to say this next line. But if it's a monologue, I just try and make sure that I'm getting all of, like you said, the important parts. Because there are times where, with improv, it has helped me that if I have something that's very long, to be able to get at least most of it. If I miss a line, like to come back and make it look like it's very fluid in saying the whole paragraph, whatnot. And that also helps to, you don't always memorize the next person after you use line, but if they don't know what comes next and they skip their line, improv has helped to be able to know what comes next to kind of get to that point, to help them get to where they need to be.
I like that John is a co-actor when you're practicing, because I heard a rumor that you were chasing him around the kitchen with a knife for my script. Don't know if that's true or confirmed or not, but I had heard. She practiced on how she held the dagger.
Maybe. He is. I've been trying to convince him to join some things with me. Now, he did do Berwick Black Box had, they also did some like podcasts, and he joined us for the January one that we did. He was one of the characters. I think he would be wonderful in improv because he is also very funny, but I think he has a little bit of stage fright, which is understandable. But yeah, he's definitely my practice partner. I think for our last play that we did, the murder mystery for the Berwick Black Box Theater, he helped me. He helped me a lot with the script, and people would say, "Oh, do you know who the killer is?" He goes, "No, we never got that far in our script reading. I didn't have to help her with the end, so I honestly don't know who it was." And he didn't, because we didn't get a chance to practice the end. Because in that play, I had half the script. It was literally every single page except for, I think, maybe a page and a half, maybe 2 pages out of like a 40 to 50 something page script. I had a lot of lines, so he needed to help me memorize at least as much as he could with with the time that we had.
Is that still going at the Black Box Theater? Are they still doing like the monthly podcast segments?
I haven't heard anything. We got through a couple months. I don't know if the other months were done, but we did do a couple. I know I was in January and February. I don't know if they were able to get the other ones done. If not, they might be coming up soon. Because that was a fun time. We went into the Berwick Innovation Center, and they have like a nice recording studio in there that we all gathered in the room and recorded it. So
Tortuous turns 1 year old, and we had filmed it, I think, right after Christmas in December of 23.
Yep.
And then it came out in February of 24. And correct me if I'm wrong, that was your first time being in a short film?
Yes.
So, my apologies, I guess, because the fact that you had to go on your first short film was my short film. I don't know if it's ever properly ran like a typical, college short film. One of the things that I learned out in Montana is coming from Bloomsburg University, which more of a telecommunications background, with a half kind of side subject in film. I don't use the clappers. I don't use like the nice boom mic and stuff like that. So it's amazing when I would go out to work with Chase, how he'd be so professional, because that's what he was taught at Full Sail University, and he'd have everybody from like the sound person to somebody else that just ran 2 separate cameras, and my films is kind of just like editor, me, director, me, sound, possibly me, although Ben helped out with this one, with the car scene. So what was your first takeaway when I had asked you, hey, do you want to do this film? Because you put a lot of faith, because I don't even think when you said yes to doing a film, you even saw what the script was.
Yeah.
Now, granted, there wasn't a whole lot of dialogue in the script like I joked about. But what were your first reactions when you're like, oh, this kid asked me to do a short film?
It was, hey, this is something that I haven't done yet. Definitely excited about doing it because, when you want to be an actor, an actress, there are two different roads to go down: stage actor, TV movie actor. And even though like my background was in stage acting, I always, pictured myself with all the, the big dreams of, being a movie or a TV actress. So getting that experience was something that I was like, yeah, definitely. This is something that I haven't done yet. And I was excited. You said it was either going to be inspirational or it's going to be like horror. And I'm like, hey, I'll do either one. Like, super excited.
I knew it was inspirational for the killer, I guess.
It was,
Revenge,
yes.
but that's... And then somebody the other day asked you if you were coming out with a sequel to it. Mm-hmm. And I'm over here like, well, I don't know if that's possible, but it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, a lot of people, pretty much anybody who says, is there another one? Like, are you coming out with another one? I'm like, well, I mean, the ending gives it like there might not be, but it could, depending on the full outcome, because you don't know the full outcome.
Off-screen deaths sometimes just, have a way of just reappearing characters.
That's right.
But no, it was a really fun time, and that was one of my favorite films to actually produce and work on. So thank you for being a part of it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Is it fascinating to see how everything comes together? Because we had filmed your parts in I think 3 separate days, and of course we didn't move the car for driving purposes when we filmed your scene. So were you interested to see how that cut together, and did you like it? Now you can be honest if you didn't like how it was cut together.
No, I definitely liked it, and it was definitely cool to see. All right, I know what takes we took. I know that we did this scene 3 times, this reaction a couple times, to see what was chosen in the end, and just seeing the little parts that we did, seeing where they played in, because it was like a tapping on the table, and just the focus on that. And then, seeing, oh, okay, yeah, that's where, oh, okay. I think the only part that surprised me was there was one, it may have been my reaction after, looking down on the floor, coming up, and just the response there. Because there was a couple takes, and I'm like, oh, okay, he chose that take. Now, it wasn't, oh, he chose that take. It was oh, okay, sure. That was the one that was chosen. Because I think we did it about a couple different ways. But just, it was cool seeing, I had surprises too. There were things when, the neighbor, when that came up, I was like, that's funny. The jump scare. I didn't know when those things were happening. So being able to experience that was pretty cool.
Did the jump scare get you?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah.
I sent that shot, no context, to people through texting, and it was, of course, the worst thing to do is text somebody late at night a video of it. So it was about 11 o'clock. I sent to my buddy Chase, and it wasn't like when you looked at the phone, like the scene is you're looking at the phone and it kind of zooms into the door cam, and then the jump scare happens, and then it shows your reaction. I sent the solid 5 seconds before the jump scare. So he's looking at the camera, and then it happens, and he's like, "I hate you," and I was like, "I got him." So I knew it was gonna work then, but I still had concerns because being the director, you still have concerns if it's gonna hit. You wonder if your lines are gonna land, which is part of the reason why I think I stay away from dialogue, because I think I'm terrified to see how the audience would react to something I wrote, like the words.
Yeah.
Because I was like, it plays with your psyche a little bit. It's like, okay, are the words going to mean this, or is it going to come up like, oh, that's lame writing?
Yeah.
So I'd rather just write the action and the plot around and stay away from that. But, as soon as that happened, I was like, okay, I think we can get some people on this one.
Yeah. It definitely got people. That was one of the things. All my coworkers are like, yo, the jump scare, that got me. Wow, the jump scare, I like screamed. So it definitely hit the way it was supposed to. That was cool. My kids were like, oh, that was awesome. Because I showed them. Now my students, they know that I was in a short film, but they do not know what it is. I have not told them. Due to some of the content in there, I don't need them coming back to school and being like, oh, Miss Crystal, you were drinking. Miss Crystal, you had a knife. Yeah. And they're like, what's it called? I'm like, I said, if you find it on your own, then you can watch it. I said, but I will not tell you what it is. They're like, why not? Guys, there's some content in there. And of course they're middle school, so they bring it to other things. I'm like, no, there's just content in there that I cannot show you in school. If you find it, watch it, that's fine, but don't think that I'm telling you.
Can't even show the pastor, I tell you. You can't.
No.
But no, that was like I said, turning a year old, and I can't even, I can't believe how quick a calendar year flies by. And that film only took me about 3 months to finally get out there, maybe 2.5, I guess, end of February. But there's other films like, because 2024, 2023 kind of run together, because we had released a film, Infliction, in October. And you might have saw that one, and I might have sent you that before we even started filming. So it was really 2 quick films. And I've been trying to get back on the film direction now. I've helped out with a few short films, and we have 2 that are in film festivals right now from Montana and from Kansas City. But I'm trying to get back into doing more films, because I was like, that's really my passion, doing these shorts and really supplying the channel with not only these podcasts but with the films as well. So would you be up for another adventure anytime soon?
Yeah.
Again, it's still going to be horror or it's going to be inspirational. I haven't chose which one, but there's a slew of films that I can tell you are coming down the pipe. It just kind of all depends on where it falls and what I get drawn to first.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Well, Crystal, I want you to have the final say on the podcast episode. With it being a relatively new year, we're in March, but with it being a relatively new year, I want you to give a motivation to somebody out there that maybe wants to do a career in, whether it's improv and acting. And, we've talked about at the beginning of this podcast where you took that break, where you did a lot of things early, took a break, got a job, worked on family, life kind of moved on, and then you came back to it. So whether it's that person or somebody that's younger watching this that, wants to go through high school and wants to go to college for this, what do you have to say to them?
Just get out there and do it. Find that community theater if you have one local to you and just give it a try. I know, especially with our Berwick Black Box Theater, that we are always looking for people, especially adults, that there are a lot of kids who show up, and that's fantastic. They typically don't have any issues casting the number of kids that they need for roles, but the adult roles are sometimes hard to fill because sometimes people might get nervous, and it's okay. You have a lot of people there to support you. Even if you try one show and realize it's not for you, hey, you gave that a try. And you might find that that passion does lie in you. And this would be a great opportunity to be able to do that. If you've been out of the game for a long time, hey, it's never too late to get back into it. Taking that break allowed me to have that experience that I could add to characters or add to what I bring to the stage. If it's something you enjoy, I say find the people who will foster that love in you. Find somebody who you can get that advice from, and that community theater definitely is wonderful for that.
Crystal Comuntzis, everybody. Thank you, Crystal, for joining us on the podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the Sheila of Hope channel, and stay tuned for more future Hope Speaks episodes.